Hi, and welcome to the show. Today we'll be making English muffins. Don't worry, you don't have to actually make the English muffins. You just need to cook them. And even that isn't too much. Now there are a few things you're going to need. Most important, you're going to need one of these. This is a plate. You put your food on it. If you don't, you'll have a lot more mess to clean up. We're also going to need a butter knife. Now this isn't one with the bumpy edge. Don't use that one unless you have to. Use the one that's really not very sharp so you don't hurt yourself. That's a butter knife. Now we're also going to need a toaster. Now, toasters, they come in different colors, so yours might not be white. Yours might be chrome or black or some color. It should have a couple of slots in the top, and if you have a different toaster, don't worry, it will still work. Now, as for the food, you need to purchase some English muffins. These come in packs, sometimes just a pack like this of 6, sometimes in a pack of 12. And they're in the package from the store. You're also going to need some butter. Any kind of butter will do, or if you want to use margarine, you're encouraged to use margarine if you're worried about your health, and the government is always worried about your health. So, you can either support the dairy farmers who have government support for their dairy products because the prices are too low, and then use butter, or you can support the healthy initiative and use margarine. So you just can't lose. You're also going to need something to drink. Now, you can use water, or if you're concerned about the quality of your water, drink something like Coca-Cola, because it's good for you. Lastly, I like to use some cinnamon and sugar. Now, if you don't have it pre-made like this one is, you can always make it yourself. We won't have time to cover that in this show, but on a later show, we can cover the details of how you make cinnamon sugar. Now, making an English muffin is in 3 steps. The first step is to get the English muffin ready to cook. You take one out of the package, and if you'll notice, the side of the English muffin has little dents in it. If you put your thumbs in there gently, you can work your way around a little at a time, and when you get all the way around, it pops open into 2 almost equal halves. Now, if you tore yours all to pieces, that's okay, you can still eat it, but don't put it in the toaster. You could start a fire. Just eat it plain. It won't hurt you. It'll just taste like bread, a little less like a muffin. Now, once you have it split, now it's time for step 2. In step 2, you actually cook it. Now remember, this is already cooked, so you can't do it wrong unless you burn it. So make sure that the setting on your toaster is set not to burn the toast. Now you might have to try one of these and keep an eye on it, and if it starts looking like it's getting black, to pop the lever up, but we'll get to that in a minute. So you take your muffin and you set it 1/2 in each of the slots. 1/2 in each of the slots, not both in one. And then you push down the lever. Now there's a couple of things you need to remember when you push down the lever. 1, the toaster has to be plugged in or else it won't work. And your power has to be turned on. If you didn't pay your bill and they turned off the electricity, your toaster won't work. And there is the part with the knob I told you about setting. Sometimes it's a knob, sometimes it's a lever. Now, if you're afraid of your bagel or toast, or in this case English muffin, getting burned, just pop the lever back up. But otherwise, leave it alone and it will pop up all by itself. Now, while this is toasting, let's cover some viewer questions that came in from our last episode on making popcorn in a microwave. Jim from California writes, "Dear Mike, I'm getting tired of eating popcorn, eggs, bacon, and frozen waffles from my microwave. But those are the only buttons it has, aside from a bunch of numbers. How do I eat anything else? Do I need a different microwave?" Well, Jim, no, you don't need a different microwave. Those other buttons with the numbers on them let you program your own times. You should look on the package of what it is you're trying to make, and somewhere on there it should say for microwaves a certain amount of time. Just punch the matching keys on the microwave to the time. So if the time says 3, 4, 5, push 3, 4, 5 and then start. And that way you can cook almost anything you want in your microwave. Now, do remember what I told you in that episode. Don't put aluminum foil in your microwave. It may look like fun, but it will start a fire and it will break your microwave. And then how are you going to have popcorn? Because you know you're not going to use the stove. Let's check in on our English muffins. Now, it's always good to check in, but don't hold your face over the toaster for too long. There's heat coming off of there, and you can dry out your eyes. And don't stick your fingers or any utensils in there because you could get electrocuted or burnt. Now, if you look in carefully, you can see whether or not the muffin is turning slightly brown, or if that muffin has already started to go to black. If it's black, you're going to want to pop up your lever. If it's just slightly brown, you're still doing well. Mine looks like it's doing pretty well. I think I'll just leave it alone. Gives us time for another piece of viewer mail. Writes, "Dear Mike, I wanted to make oodles of noodles soup, but I had to use the stove. Are there any other directions or ways to make noodle soup without using the stove?" Well, that's a tough question, and we'll come back to it. But right now, as you can see, our English muffins popped up. Now, while they're still warm, you want to get them out and put them on the plate. This is important. Don't put them on the table, put them on the plate. While they're still warm is when you're going to want to put the butter on. Now, you could open the butter before you take them out, while they're in the toaster, for example, or you can have an already opened butter. But I'm going to show you, when you open the butter, try to keep your fingers off of the butter. Try to just use the wrapper and open the wrapper carefully, and don't put your fingers in it. Even if you think your fingers are clean, don't put your fingers in the butter. Now, if you have a tub of margarine, you just lift the lid off. It's a lot easier for you, so you might want to use that, folks. Now, you take your knife and you get some of it off on the knife. Now, I had to use my finger there because it fell off, and try not to do that. But if you have to, you have to. Now, I'm going to get another pat for the other one. That's what you call these if you're using real butter. A piece you cut off is called a pat of butter. I'm using my fingers just to show you. That's called a pat of butter. It's not called a dollop or a chunk or a hunk or anything like that. It's called a pat. So if you go out into a nice restaurant like maybe IHOP or so, remember, it's a pat of butter. If you say that, people will be very impressed with you. Now, once you put the butter on, it's going to soften a little bit because of the heat. And then you can use your knife and you can carefully spread. Now, use the side of the knife. Use the side of the knife and go ahead and spread that butter around a little bit there. And then do the same thing with the other one. I'll leave this one on the plate because I think you've got the idea. Don't gouge down with the point of the knife. That's not going to work. You need to spread it nicely. If you do that, you're just going to make a huge mess. If the butter's not spreading well and your muffin's tearing, either two things have happened. Either you didn't toast it long enough, and you can tell if it doesn't have any brown, it's probably not toasted, or your butter is much too cold. Now, there's not much you can do about that, but you could hold it over top of the toaster, and that would warm it up a little bit. Now, I've done this. Now, if you have a topping, I like, as I said, cinnamon sugar, but you could use maybe peanut butter or jelly or a jam, almost anything. You can put it on top of the English muffin. Now, I'm just going to sprinkle some of this on, and you can just, do it to taste. There isn't a recipe for this, folks, so don't write to me and say you don't know how much to put on. Try a little bit and then take a bite, and if you don't think it's enough, you can add more. Don't just dump it on there so the whole thing is like a mound of sugar. It may sound like it would be tasty, but really, it's not that good. Now, you can cut these if you'd like in half, if that makes you happy, or any other shape, or you just eat them as is. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a bite of this and make sure it's definitely, I'm going to show you this is definitely good. Mmm. Oh, that is good. Mmm. Mmm. Wow. That is a good muffin. Now, while you're spreading the butter, you could put another muffin into the toaster so that way when you were done with this one, the next one would be ready. And that's one way that you could have more food without having to wait so much in between. I'm going to have a little drink of my Coca-Cola. I'm going to drink it right out of the bottle. You don't need to dirty a glass. You can drink some things out of the bottle. Now, remember the episode about orange juice. Don't drink that out of the big container. That's really not very good. And don't drink the milk out of the container either. But, when you have a single serving that's designed for just one person, it's okay to drink out of the bottle. Now, getting back to the question on the oodles of noodles, well, I'm going to start talking to you about that while I split another one of these. I'm going to put it in the toaster just so you can see again, that we're splitting it down the middle. And you'll see how fast this is when I don't stop to talk about it. Now, for the oodles of noodles question, which was from Bob in Minneapolis, you push down, there are some other options. One, you could put hot water into your microwave, or just put water in your microwave, turn it on to like the popcorn setting, and leave it in there, and it will get very hot. And then, be careful, because it's going to be very hot. You could then put the noodles in and just wait. Just wait for maybe 5 minutes or so. They'll soften up, and then you can eat them. You don't need to use the stove. You can also use a tea kettle, or like a coffee maker. If you have a single serving coffee maker, you could just put water in, and no coffee grounds, just water through the machine. It'll come out the other side hot. You can pour that into a bowl with the noodles, and again, they'll soften up. So there's really a couple options there if you want to go ahead and make noodle soup, the oodles of noodles that you love so much, without having to resort to using the stove, which we all know is a dangerous and expensive and not very environmentally friendly way to do our cooking. Now, I'm going to have another bite of this English muffin because I'm going to tell you, this is a really good meal. Oh, that is wonderful. For all you conservatives out there or Southerners, you might think that these government programs where we teach you to enjoy the simple pleasures of something like an English muffin, you say, oh, that's an English muffin. That's not for Americans. That's for some sort of crazy French-loving liberals. Well, first of all, there's nothing wrong with France or with liberals. But this is just called an English muffin. It's actually perfectly American. And more important, when you're eating an English muffin for your meal and forgoing the red meat, which causes all sorts of problems with your heart and your digestion, when you're just eating an English muffin, You are living according to your own faith there, conservative Republicans. Because remember, in your Lord's Prayer it says, "Give us this day our daily bread." And this, folks, is your daily bread. So don't complain. Enjoy it. You don't need to have a steak. You don't need it. Your God didn't want you to have it. He wanted you to have some bread. And I'll tell you, it's awfully good. Mmm. Oh, that's good bread. Oh, I know why your God told you to eat it. It's really good. It looks like my other muffin's just about to pop up. Now, here it comes. Now, see, this one got stuck a little bit. It doesn't come all the way up. Just push it the rest of the way, and you'll be fine. Ooh, that's hot. Be careful. It's hot. Don't burn yourself. Now, those were some really hot ones. Now, you'll notice that when you use the toaster more than once, sometimes things get a little bit more done, and there's also a little bit more heat. Be aware of that. Now, I'm going to put some butter on there. Now, remember, I said, look how quick this is. When you're not spending a whole lot of time doing instructions and showing, you can get these put together very quickly. Now, imagine how your whole family could just be sitting around and enjoying some English muffin dinners. Now, this is a lot like the frozen waffles. Remember we had the frozen waffle episode? And when we did those frozen waffles, remember we said just put that toaster right there on your table. Just stick it right there, even if it's your coffee table in front of your TV. Just stick that toaster right on there. As long as you can plug it in, it doesn't matter where it is. The same is true with this English muffin. You can just go ahead and just put that toaster, put that rascal anywhere you want. Doesn't matter. You can even have it, don't put it by a full bathtub or something. That's not good. But you can put it almost anywhere else you want. And then you can eat your English muffins right there in front of the TV or so. And it has two halves, so you really can share with somebody else when they're coming out. You don't have to eat them yourself, all the whole muffin. You can just eat half the muffin. And this way, your whole family can sort of just crowd around the toaster, and you can have some quality time together making English muffins. And this is some good eating. England managed to conquer the world for quite a long time. And, so if you think that you can't get all what you need out of English muffins, you're wrong. And if you don't believe me, you can go ahead and you can read the package. And right here is the government nutrition fact. We put it right on there. We do it for you, and we tell you. And I mean, just look at this. The amount of fat, only 2% of fat. Isn't that great? That means you can put some butter on, and it's still going to be good for you. And it's 8% of your carbohydrates for one of these. So really, you can eat a whole bunch of them, and you'll be just fine. And there's iron. There's iron and calcium in these. Iron and calcium. Can you believe it? I mean, this is a wonder food. You should eat English muffins whenever you get a chance. They're easy, they're quick, they're inexpensive, and they're good for you. Join us next episode when we tackle the difficult issue of making your own Kool-Aid. Until then, happy eating.